Can hear us. So I just want to welcome, thank you for coming. We are going to present today a guide to embedding online library resources into your courses. Like I always say, everything that you say is being recorded. There are microphones on all campuses, and we are going to be uploading the training video to our professional development webpage. So anything that you say in the rooms is recorded and will be available to anyone that couldn't attend the session. So please keep your voices to a minimum, and if you have questions, wait for Amy to ask for those. And just thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll learn some great resources to embed into our courses. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Okay, so hello. My name is Amy Gustafson. I'm a librarian here on the Lee campus. I've been working in libraries for about 10 years, and I've been teaching students how to find, evaluate, and use resources during those 10 years. So our plan for today is to find library resources that you can embed for your classes. And so all of these things are free. So we have over 1 million articles available for free online. We have about 80,000 ebooks. We just added a 50,000 ebook collection over the summer, and we've been putting that to very good use already. We'll talk about finding our e-videos, which will also be expanding come January. And then from there, we'll talk about individual web pages that we've created for every class on campus. And I think we have a web page for just about everything except for some things in the performing arts. But other than that, we have a web page for every class on campus. If you have questions throughout today's session, just feel free to raise your hand and I will be happy to answer them. Dacia, would you let me know?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that sounds really good. Okay, so before I talk about what else we're going to cover today, I'm interested in why are you here? What do you want to know from this session?
So I intend to, over time, grow, of course, the resources that my on-campus students can go to our Blackberry site to use. But then also, I've been teaching online a really long time, and I think it's time to sort of retool some of those classes. And there are probably some things I could let go and put some new things on. So I'm sort of here to get that started.
Okay, and so my boss is also here. She's cheering for me in the background, so that's why she's here, so that's very nice. And how about the folks on the other campus? Why are you guys here? What would you like to get out of today's session? Can I respond?
Any ideas for those of you in Pittsburgh, why you're here? What are you here to learn about? What would you like to get from this session?
What are we hearing? What?
What are your goals for the session? What do you want to leave here being able to do? If there's only one thing, what is that one thing?
Learn something new?
Provide some additional resources for our students that can be placed when we're doing our curriculum development.
So are you interested more in articles, more in e-videos, more in e-books?
E-videos.
E-videos.
Yeah.
Videos. Okay, well that helps me figure out where everyone else is. Okay, so I'm going to go sit down because I'm going to actually do this session live and show you in real time the ways that you can find this information. Okay, so here's our schedule for today. We just did the welcome. From there, we'll talk about finding and embedding articles, ebooks, e-videos, and then those library research guides I mentioned before. So that's the web page we're talking about. And from there, we'll have a closing. So I don't have this available for the folks on the Pittsburgh campus, but I do have this handout that I will be sending out. And it's basically this same thing that we see in front of us. So the 4 tools that we'll be looking at today, so we'll be using research guides to embed our research guides. In order to find articles, we'll be using integrated search, subject search, and that does have about over 1 million scholarly articles online. From there, we'll be talking about finding ebooks, and once again, we'll be using the integrated search by type tab, and that has 80,000 ebooks, and then last are e-videos through Films on Demand. So I'm going to switch out of this now, and we are going to work on finding articles. Okay, so this is the library's webpage. Thanks to the new redesign of the CCCC webpage, if you come up here, you have a very nice link up there to get to the library, and that's where we're headed to first. So if we scroll down just a little bit, over here on the left-hand side, we have a very nice link over here, library services and policy, so that's a nice overview of the library. And then on the very bottom, we have this faculty library services link. So if you click on that, it'll give you a nice overview of everything that you can get as a faculty or adjunct instructor. And the reason I want to mention this page is if you go to instruction support, the second tab over, and if I scroll down just a little bit, you can see in the second box, resources or ways to embed materials onto Blackboard. And so it does have a copy of today's presentation already linked, and it does have a copy of that handout that I mentioned before that the folks in the Pittsburgh campus don't have yet. So if you have a chance, do take a look at this guide. It's great for reviewing what we discussed today, as well as learning about our new resources. So we talked about our introductory things. Now it's time to actually move on to our very first section, which is finding articles online. If you scroll down just a bit on the library's webpage, the very first thing that you see is integrated search, subject search. And it allows you to search all of the materials listed here. So access to peer-reviewed articles, popular magazines, newspapers, e-videos, e-books, and even print books. Okay? But if you do keep this option on here for full text clicked, it will take away the physical books that you can search for in the library. So by clicking full text, it narrows it automatically to articles. The second way you can narrow is by choosing peer-reviewed. And if you scroll down, you can see all the different areas or ways that you can narrow down your search. So I know that Bianca mentioned that she's in history, so we can click on the history tab and search just for history articles that are peer-reviewed. We can search for Southern culture articles if we click on that. But today, what I thought we would search for is zombie ants. Have you guys heard of this thing called zombie ants before?
No.
Would you like me to explain it?
Yes.
Okay, so these are in fact real things. What happens is a fungus will invade an ant. It takes over its brain and its body, and it makes it do certain things. Like it makes it walk to a certain plant during the full moon and eat a certain leaf from the north side of this plant. Okay, so we have zombie ants. I think it's very fascinating. So we can search for zombie ants by clicking on science and technology, and then coming up here and then just typing in zombie ants. And this is a very narrow field of research, so we're not going to get as many articles on this as we would doing another search. But it's not bad. So we did our search for zombie ants, and we have 25 results, not too bad. If you scroll down over here on the left-hand side, you can see a few things, like we have our limiters listed. So one, all these articles are full text, so that's wonderful. And then two, all of these articles are scholarly or peer-reviewed. And that's very important, I know, for many classes on campus. If you need to change any of those limiters, you can click on the X's right here, or you can uncheck the items here as well. And then the very last thing we see on the left-hand side is the date range. It goes from 1978 to 2014. And pretty much every program I've talked to on campus, maybe not history, but they usually want the last 5 years worth of information. So if you scroll this over and let it go, at this point, it will run the search again and just narrow our search to the last 5 years. So we've gone from about 28 articles down to 23. So that's great because it covers everything that we're looking for. And one thing I didn't mention, but when you click on search right here, if you're off campus, we'll need our username and password. And that's what's on this page right here. If you don't have the username and password, it's CCCCLIB. And then the password is read it now. You can also get these passwords by looking in the student library brochure or calling the library's help desk whenever you need that password. But if you're on campus, you
Read it now.
Okay, so now let's get back to our 23 results. So what's highlighted, of course, is the name of the article. In this case, it is a very long, very detailed article name that I won't mention. Read off. This hidden diversity behind the zombie ant fungus, and that's the scientific name. And apparently 4 new species have developed as a result of being taken over by the zombie ant fungus. So if I click on the title of this article, you'll get nice background information about the article. And you guys are probably familiar with this, but I'll go over it just in case you're not. So the first thing that you see is, once again, the title of the article. From there, we have our authors listed here. So we have 1, 2, 3 authors. And there are nice little footnotes here, 1 through 4. And if you come down here, it will tell you where these folks are affiliated with. So it looks like a lot of them, they're in Brazil, they're in the United Kingdom. One gentleman works for Penn State University, and so on and so forth. If you come down further, the next thing you get is all of your citation information all in one place. So the title of the journal, when it was published, which is 2011, that's not bad. It includes the volume, the issue, and the page numbers. From there, I like to talk about subject terms and the abstracts with students. Once again, you all might be familiar with this, but I'll go over this just in case. So subject terms are basically tags or keyword overviews for a certain article. So right away, we can tell that this article is about these 7 major things. And the reason why this is important is I can do a search for zombie ant, right? But it might only appear in my article once rather than being the main topic of my article. And that's why I do point out to students to use the subject terms to determine if they like that article or not. From there, we have the abstract, which is the nice overview of the article. So now we've talked a little bit about analyzing the citation information and the article information here. But over here on the right-hand side, these are the tools that are really helpful, which will help you embed them in your classes. So the first thing you can do is you can add this article to a folder. And you can see once I click on that, it pops up here with the folder icon. And what's great about the folder is you can add multiple articles in at the same time, click select, and then come over here on the right and email the article to yourself, and then you can link the full text PDF on Blackboard. Another way that you can get this article to your students, of course, you can email every article individually. So if I click on the email icon, I can come over here, and usually everyone gets this section on the left-hand side. Of course, you'll write your email address in here. You'll write the subject of what your email's about. But it's this section on the right that people sometimes forget. Sometimes these articles have the option to be linked as either an HTML or PDF. And I always suggest to students, please use the PDF. And the reason why is the PDF looks like a photocopy of the article, which means it's really easy to cite the paper when it's time to write your paper. But if you find that you have the HTML, they usually take the page numbers out, and so it becomes much harder for you to cite the article at that time. The other thing that this email function will do for you, if you come down, you click on citation format and the down button, this will also come cited already for you with the full text of this article. Now there's one caveat to this. This information is only as good as the people who entered it into the database. So I always tell students, you really have to check to make sure that these citations are correct. Most of the time the information is there. It's usually formatting issues is what we run into. So if you see something in all capital letters, that's not the right citation format for you. You have to go back and find out, is it APA where it's just the first letter is capitalized, or is it MLA where you have to do a little bit more work in thinking about it. So emailing yourself the full text of the article is another option. But one of my favorite things to do is actually come down here to this permalink option, which is second from the bottom, and it does say permalink. Okay, so with most web pages, if you came up here and clicked on the browser URL and copied and pasted that, that would work. But in every database, that is actually a temporary URL, so it's not going to work if you copy and paste it. So that's why they have this permalink option that's second from the bottom. So if you click on that, it'll pop up right here above the title of the article, and you just select it all, copy it, and then you can paste it from Blackboard. And so for these links, I'll copy this and then I'll show you what it'll actually look like once students click on it. So I've copied it into another browser window and now I'm hitting enter. Okay. And so what it takes you to is the same page we were looking at before. And so don't expect for it to take students directly to the PDF. Full text, it'll take them to this page. So you will probably have to point out in Blackboard to look for the PDF icon on the left-hand side. So do you guys have any questions so far? Something else I do want to mention, I don't know if you can see this at the bottom here, but I strongly urge everyone, if you're going to use the library databases, please use Mozilla Firefox. Internet Explorer does not seem to work, and Chrome works, I would say, about 85% of the time, but it doesn't work the other 15% of the time. So if you want to make your life happy all the time, definitely use Firefox. So if you guys don't have any questions about finding online articles, we can go to the next section, which is going to be finding ebooks online.
I have one question, Amy, if you don't mind. These steps, as you've outlined them, are they somewhere in a tutorial already designed for students? Or in other words, if I wanted, I mean, I know that this was the faculty, but students can also access these databases. So is there a tutorial that walks them through that? Or is that something you prefer that they come to you for that instruction?
Well, we always like it when they come by as an entire class or one-on-one. That's great. But that's actually a really great question, and that's the very last thing I was going to get to.
Then you can pause.
But actually, since you've asked, I love interruptions, and I think, if you have a question, we should answer it right now. So from the library's webpage, if you click on Get Help, you can come down here, and these are all the ways, of course, to get help from the library. So you can come see us in person, you can call us, you can email us. But then at the bottom, these are really our self-help things right here. So we have tutorials on this page. And so if I click on that, we have about 5 or 6 new tutorials that we just did over the summer. And each tutorial has its own quiz right there. And it's a Google Doc quiz, which apparently, you have to actually be signed in with your CCCC account to get to the quiz. But we do have the tutorials here. In addition to these tutorials, and I moved through that a little bit fast because I want to show you another page that I'm really excited about. So the other link on this page is actually our library research guides. And this is where our 58 web pages we've created for every class live. And Bianca, since you're in history, I'm going to scroll down. They're all in alphabetical order until I get to history. Okay, so history is number 33. And when I click on this, this is our library guide for history. So it's an all-in-one place that students can go to find their resources that they need for their assignments. So this is the overview page. They navigate by using the tabs at the top of the page. And what I really like about this page is if you click on library research, this is where all those tutorials are also embedded. Right. And the library quizzes are also included. And we have this nice little piece of information up here, which is basically like an ad for them, which is save time, save money, use the library, because we have access to millions of free articles online. You can get these articles from Google sometimes, but a lot of the time they ask you to pay for them. And these articles could be anywhere from $20 to $80 per article, and that's 15 pieces of paper. You know, that's too much money. So that's why we really want them to know about what we offer. And you can see on the right-hand side what tutorials we actually have, and that's why I went through the other list kind of fast. We have a library webpage overview. It's only 3 minutes long. We have resource type overview, so that talks about, let's see, I just want to make sure I'm getting that one right. Okay, so this is our chart that compares peer-reviewed versus professional versus popular articles, because every program has different requirements about what their students need. And if you scroll down, it's peer review in 3 minutes. So what is the peer review process? How does that differ from an editorial process? The 4th tutorial is picking your topic is research. What we find when students come to us is, I have this one research topic and this is it. I can never change. This is the only thing that I can do. And what we want to explain to them with this tutorial is that it's kind of a process. You might start somewhere, but you do a little research and you find, oh, I can narrow my search this way, I can narrow my search, and so it's just the cycle of how to do research. From there, this is the library integrated search in about, I think this one is about 4 or 5 minutes long, and that's what we just went over for yours. And then the very, very last one, this is the library catalog. And so the first one is finding e-resources or online resources, and this one is how to find physical materials in the library. And since we're here, we might as well talk about the other tabs before we head on. So the next tab is finding books in the library. And so what we've done is in this upper left-hand corner, we have the call numbers there. So students can browse in their area, because we find that a lot of what students like doing is browsing, because you can see what's available better by looking at an entire collection on the shelf. The next item down will do this one on the left, so books at library. So if I click at Lee Library, and I might have done that a bit fast, so Lee Library books right there. This is a canned search of probably about 6 subjects we could think of for a certain area. So it's a way they can browse online. So you can see the subjects listed at the top. So civilization, Western history, United States history, China history, Latin American history, and then it goes on. And the place that we get this information from, we analyze every program and what classes are on.
Because there's a class in here too.
From here, these are just links to search on your own. This is how to read a catalog record once you've actually found a book that you're interested in. Because sometimes students don't realize they need the book title, they need the location of where the book lives, and then they need the call number. And then of course, over here on the right-hand side, if you can't get a book that's physically available on our campus, we can get it for you for free from just about anywhere in the country. And that can take anywhere from 4 to 10 days for that to arrive. Next is finding articles online. And what we've done is we've included a widget here. So this is the widget for business and management, and I'm not sure why that's in there. We have to switch that out to history. But if you come over here, it would be history and biography. And so this widget is as though someone had already selected history and biography for you. And then you come back and search there. And then we have other individual databases listed here for students to search. The next link over is find e-resources. And so this is where they can find those ebooks online already in one widget, and then where students can find films for films on demand. The second to last tab, we're almost done with this section, is websites. And so what we've tried to do is just find really high quality scholarly websites in these areas so students can learn more about their topics. Also, if it's a professional LibGuide, so say it's nursing or medical assisting or anything where they are really training for a career, linked from this page we have career information. So things like Occupational Outlook Handbook linking directly to nursing. And the very last thing on this page is citation help, because that's something, of course, that everyone's going to need help with when they're writing their paper. So we have sample papers over here on the left. And I love these sample papers because students can get annotated help with formatting their papers and everything. And I'm sure that you guys also have this type of thing in abundance probably, but it's just another resource for them. We do have the Purdue OWL links here. We have citation builders, and also this note, always review your citations because you have to make sure they're correct. And then we have this CCCC campus writing resources. So the Writing and Reading Center and the CCCC Writing Works. And then if I didn't mention it before, in order to embed this in your course, and I strongly urge that everyone do this, the URL is going to be right here. So it's always cccc.libguides.com, and we try to make it as brief as possible. So this one's history. And let's see, so computer information technology would be /CIT. Psychology would be /psychology. So we jumped around a little bit there. Does anyone have any questions about this little guide? So just remember, in order to get there from the library's webpage to get back to those web pages, you're going to click on Get Help. You're going to scroll down to the very bottom where our tutorial section is, and it's the very first link, Library Research Guides. And in this case, we can just do the very first guide on the list. So this is the ACA Library Orientation Guide, and you can copy and paste this URL at the very top that I'm highlighting into your Blackboard site. Okay. So that was a nice diversion. So we're headed back to the library's webpage. So we talked about finding articles by using this subject search tab, but the very next thing we're going to look at is finding ebooks online. And so to find ebooks really easily, we're going to skip from the subject search tab over to the next one, which is search by type. And so you see the same layout here. So you have your search box, you have your full text option here, you have your peer review option here. Just a word to the wise, do not click on the peer review option for books because it's really only an indicator for articles. So if you click on this, you're always going to get 0 ebook results back. Okay, and so to narrow to ebooks, you can see it at the bottom here. I'll click on ebooks and encyclopedias. And so I thought, we could talk about maybe finding resources that could help you as teachers because you're here for professional development. So I can show you what we have for teaching and higher education. And the reason why I'm putting higher education in quotation marks is basically I'm telling the database, please find these 2 words right next to each other. Because otherwise higher could be in one paragraph and education could be all the way in the bottom, and it's not going to mean the same thing unless they're right next to each other. Also, if you guys didn't know about this, these quotation marks also work in Google. You can search up to a paragraph of information using quotation marks. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but I'm going to. But when I was in graduate school, every once in a while I would write a paper and I'd forget where I found a resource from. So I would put my sentence in Google, I'd put the quotation marks around it, and usually someone else cited it, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's in that paper right there. So I could go back and actually cite my work. So that was helpful. Okay, so I have my search terms in, teaching and higher education, and then I've selected full text. And then ebooks and encyclopedias, I can go ahead and hit search. And while we're searching, the other word that I use in there is the word and. Right now, our databases don't really work like Google does, so you really have to use the word and in between each search. And now we've come up with no results, and I'm curious as to why that happened. We're in Mozilla, so it should work.
Try unchecking full text.
I'm checking full text.
Full text may apply just to articles too.
No, it doesn't. It really needs to be full text with the box clicked. I will mention that this is what I was trying to avoid by saying not to search in Chrome, and it looks like we might not even have Chrome as an option. But this widget has been a little bit wonky lately. Oh no, we don't have any other options. The widget has been a little bit wonky, and until today, it has always worked 100% of the time when I search in Mozilla Firefox. But it's that lovely experience as whenever you want to show other people,
I understand.
you have an issue.
I've never been there.
I was not happy. You guys hold on just for a second, and I'm switching to IE just to see if I can make this work. And if not, I do have the, or I did have the PowerPoint up that I can show you from there. what's funny is I checked this right before I left here today, and it worked before I arrived.
That's no.
Okay, so apparently today it's very happy in Internet Explorer, but not Mozilla. So when I did a search for teaching and higher education in quotation marks, I can come down here and see that I have 29,000 books that talk about this topic. Now just remember that this can range anywhere from being the main subject of a book to these words just appear on one of the pages. So it is a matter of evaluation. So over here on the left-hand side, you can see the same things that we saw with the other database. It's full text, and you do need to have the full text selected to find ebook full text. If you come down here, you can see the date range. It's 1915, which is incredibly old for 2014. But I will move that over. Unfortunately, I let go too soon, but I do want to show you resources from the most recent 5 years. So we went from about, I think, 25,000, is that about what I said? Or ebooks down to about 8,800, so that's really good. And the first thing you see is the title of the book. So the first one is Building Teaching Capacities in Education and Higher Education. The second one is Analyzing Teaching Learning Interactions in Higher Education. And the third one is this, How to be an Effective Teacher in Higher Education, Answers to Lecturers' Questions. I thought this was a nice book. It has a nice FAQ format to it. So I'll go ahead and click on this book to show you more information about it. And once again, you have the citation information, the book title, the authors, who published it, and when. And once again, this is 2010, so a fairly recent book. I like using the subjects because it tells you exactly what a book is about. And I think I forgot to mention this when I was talking about articles, but if you click on any of these subjects, it'll take you to every other book in this database that has the same subject. So if you want to search for books on effective teaching, click on this link and it takes you to that list. Same thing with college teaching. I'm not too much of a fan of the rest of the center layout of this section because it's most relevant pages from the book and they only show you 3. And then from here, they show you the table of contents. But at this point, I'm usually just ready to look at the full text in the book. So I'll jump over here to the left-hand side. Okay, so 2 things. One, you can look at the ebook online, and that's this first link right here, or you can download the ebook. If you download the ebook, it can work on any e-reader. So your iPad, your Nook, your Kindle, your Sony reader, it will work on all of those things. But if you download it, it's like checking out a book. And so no one else will be able to use it while you have it downloaded. So it's just up to you what's important to you. Okay, so if I click on this ebook full text, I can get this book completely online. And while that's loading, you can see that you have the table of contents over here on the left-hand side. I'm just going to pretend it didn't offer me any suggestions. Anyway, so over here on the left-hand side, you can look at the table of contents before you ever look in the book, and you can jump around in there if you want to. And apparently, let's see. Hold on, you guys. Apparently, it wants me to do something, and I'm going to see it canceling if we can get around that. But you do use the little arrows on the bottom to move around, and you can use the magnifying glass to minimize or maximize the page down here on the left. And let's see, I usually like to show students, sorry about this folks, that it does have the title page here, which has your citation information. And then it does have the verso page on the back, which includes the rest of the citation information that they need for their book. Since it's doing that crazy error message thing, we won't click through the rest of the book, but do take a look at these icons on the right-hand side. They're not labeled very well, but we'll look at a few of them. So the very first one is search within this book. And so if you search within this book, you can search for anything that you're interested in. So I know something that's important is active learning. So when I click on active learning, I can see that right away it has 333 page matches. What's odd about this is you would think they would put it in numerical order, and it looks like it is, but really what they do is they jump around, I believe, on relevancy. But I just did want to mention that. So if I click on this link right here, it'll take me to page 11. And if I scroll down just a little bit, I know at the bottom I can see information where they start talking about active learning right here. So that's really helpful for you as faculty members and and your students. And what's interesting is from this page, if you click the permalink option, which is still second from the bottom and it looks like a paperclip, it will take you directly to this page. At the very end, I'm not sure if you can see that, but at the very end of that URL it says pp_11. So this is page 11, it takes you directly here. So if you want your students to go to a certain page, you can do that. You can also just start with the main portion of the book and say, use the permalink for students to get here that way. The next thing I want to mention is the third icon down, and you can actually look up a word in the dictionary. So if you click there, it will bring up the dictionary there, and that will probably be good for your students as well. Okay, so if you want to save a portion of this book, you can click on email right here, and it will tell you the page limit of how many pages you can send at one time. So you can say, I want this current page, and then the next 30 pages, so you can link that as a PDF document from your Blackboard. You can also ask it, once again, to be cited in MLA, APA, Chicago formats. You can email it to yourself, and then you would include the subject. You guys have any questions? Pretty straightforward. How about at Pittsburgh? Do you guys have any questions?
Good.
They're good?
They're good.
Okay, great. Okay. So thanks for holding on with me there and switching to all the browsers to find out which one would work with the ebooks. And it seems to only be with the ebook option that it doesn't work very well. Okay, so the next thing that we can search for is e-videos. And of course you can do search by type, you can scroll down, you can search by video and audio resources which are online, but it's much less robust than going directly to the Films on Demand webpage. And you can get there by going to online resources, or once you get this page, which I'll ask Dish to send out to everyone, there's a tiny URL there, which is tinyurl.com/ccc-FOD, and FOD just stands for Films on Demand. So you can easily get there and find your Films on Demand. Now, right now with Films on Demand, our current collection includes our business and economics, science and math, technical education, and family and consumer sciences. Starting in January 2015, we're going to have a very robust package that includes humanities and social sciences, which I'm very, very excited about, and I hope you are too, health, careers, and then some public library videos as well. So I think how much would you think it's expanding from and to, Tara?
Ooh, at least double, possibly triple what we already have.
Okay, so at least double, possibly triple. I think we have about 5,000 videos now, and so we're jumping up to 10,000. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at online resources up here and scroll down and get to that Films on Demand service. And you'll see in a minute why I like using this interface rather than the other search option. So once again, if you click on this link and you're off campus, you will need to log in with that username and password that's at the top here, CCCCLIB, and then password, read it now. So the very first thing that you get here is a number of videos that you can browse. They usually like to put the recently added item in first, so that's what you'll see. So it's broken down like biology or science, engineering, and this list will expand in January. The other way you can look at this is looking at our collection. So if I click on the down option, you can see how they're broken out from here. And once again, those will include humanities and social sciences, health, and careers starting in January. But this feature right here is actually one of my favorites. So it has featured producers. And you can see all the wonderful producers of e-video content that we have access to. So we have things like Ken Burns documentaries, that's pretty amazing. We have Modern Marvels, which is one of my favorite TV shows, so I love this database for that reason. We have National Geographic, we have Nova, we have PBS, we have Rick Steves, who I also enjoy a lot. And then we do have TED Talk videos. And do you guys have a preference of which one we look at today?
Don't help people.
So
I was gonna say, I can talk to them, they're more them than me.
Anyone in Pittsburgh want to make a selection?
How about TED?
Ted.
TED. Okay, let's go to TED and find out what we got.
Yeah, I love the TED Talk.
I
love
TED
TED Talks every
I
day.
do
Ted
too.
too.
So what we see here is that we have 354 titles, not bad at all, and they're all in these different areas, so you can narrow down this way. And I think some of the people at Pittsburgh, are you guys in the health area, is that right?
Yes.
Yes, they said yes.
Okay, so we do have some nursing videos, so let's go ahead and click on nursing and see what comes up. Okay, so now we've narrowed it down just to our 8 titles right now that are talk about nursing and are produced by TED. So let's see, this first one looks interesting, nature microbes, so I'll go ahead and I'll click on that. From here, you get that same background information that we've seen in our other databases. So once again, we have the title of the video up here. If you scroll down, you get a nice little overview right here. And what's interesting about this is over here, this looks like the entire video, but you can also just ask your students to look at a segment.
Which many of you may have now that we've.
Okay,
So
so you can.
part is nice.
So what?
The segment part is really nice.
Yeah, and the best part about the segments is if you scroll down just a bit, at the bottom here, you can see you can either copy and paste the entire URL for this video in, or you can just do one segment that you're working on. The other thing I really love about this database is you can, of course, email this link to yourself, but you can also log in and create your own playlist. And let me see if I can remember my password and all my seeds.
Now, this user ID is your college user ID or something you've done specifically for Films on Demand?
So actually, let me log out. Back, let's see if it'll let me log out that way. Okay, so up here in the right-hand corner, you can go to create an account, and it doesn't require that you use your CCCC email. It's just the one you can remember the best.
Okay.
So I'll head back and see if I'm signed in again. Sorry, guys. Okay, so let's go on to playlist. Okay, it's gonna make me sign in one more time. So now I'm signed in, and I can click on playlist, and I can either add the full title or use the control key, of course, to choose which segments I want. I can add it to an existing playlist, which I don't have any at the moment, or I can create a new playlist. So I'll just say nursing. And so I'll do create new playlist. And so now we have our playlist there. And if you go up to playlists in the upper right-hand corner, you can get your link from here. And then this is the URL that you use for your students to get back to your playlist. And so I think you can have as many segments or full-length videos that you want on there. Another option that you guys can use is this embed option. And I don't know how I feel about it. It's up to you guys. But if you include all of this HTML in your Blackboard site, it'll show up as a player. So it'll show up as this video. There's nothing that they have to link out to, and they can watch it right there. The only thing with that is they can't navigate back to Films on Demand. They can't see any of the information we see. They just see a video.
Have you tried embedding a code into PowerPoint? Have you been successful with that?
That is a really fascinating question, and I don't see why it wouldn't work, because if you can embed other things in PowerPoint like that,
I tried that recently and I ran into some issues. So I just decided, for sake of time, to log into a TED Talk and just
do it
do it that way. But it was PowerPoint 2010. I didn't know if you had any issue with that.
That's actually an issue. That is the first time anyone has ever asked me that question, so we can definitely work on that and find out.
Thank you.
And do we know if the embedding works in the new version of Blackboard? Because I know.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Because the older version, I think an instructor had tried it and was not successful in embedding, but she could do a link.
Yeah, we are embedding the videos from these training sessions into Blackboard, and I have no issue of not running into anything.
Okay, great.
Well, and just from my decade in distance ed, while you certainly lose something, most faculty from art and online students, if having that extra information is not critical, if the critical thing is for them to just watch, pushing them to something else that they have to log on, you lose them in that step. So that's an asset to just embedding it and letting them watch it through a player if they don't have to have the other stuff.
Yeah, no, that is important. And that's why we try to go from, last year, this year, we went from like 16 passwords down to 1. That's
Exactly for that
yes.
very reason, sure.
And so the other thing that's great, it's kind of great, it's kind of not great. But if you go up here in the upper left-hand corner, and for some reason it's not happy at the moment, but that's where the closed captioning option is. It only appears if you hover in the right-hand corner and let it go. And not every video has closed captioning with it, but that's where it is. There are some of these videos where if you come over here on the right-hand side, there's actually a link in the center where it has the entire transcript. But the TED Talks don't have the transcripts, but if you run into those are also very helpful. The next thing that your students may or may not need is the citation tool. So once again, in this case, it's only the 3 basic citation methods, and they would need to double check to make sure everything is formatted correctly. And then last, you can create your own custom segment where you choose the beginning and end times in the title. But I think I would just stick with using the segments personally. That's up to you guys. It's another option. Okay, so after we spent some time browsing by looking at our featured producers, you do of course have the option up here to search. And right now what we default to is search by segment. So it's going to be 2 minutes and 58 seconds long rather than a 2-hour video that comes up. If you want to find an entire video, you can switch it to title. So do you guys have any questions about this? It's not that big.
I was gonna let you guys know, we have to leave in probably 5 minutes, because there's a class wanting to come in here.
Well, that's actually really great, because this is the very last thing that we were going to go over today. Okay, so just as an overview, remember the places we went today. So we went to the library's webpage. We used the subject search to go down here and search for articles. Remember, we narrowed it by peer-reviewed, full text, and then we were able to narrow it by our certain subject area. The next place we went is search by type. And so once we click search on type, this allows us to narrow by
Sleep again.
encyclopedias.
You gotta wait, somebody's gotta shake the computer every 15 minutes.
Did you have a question in Pittsburgh?
No, our projector went to sleep, and I was just saying we had to shake the mouse every.
Yes, I sent an email to Douglas. I think he's on vacation this week, so we will get that fixed for the next session. Sorry, Amy. Go ahead.
And then the third link that we looked at is online resources. And if you scroll down from there, remember it's films on demand, and we click there. And then our nice interlude in the center, please do remember our library web pages that we have available for your students to embed in Blackboard. So remember, you go to Get Help, you scroll down to the very bottom, you go to Library Research Guides, you click on the guide that interests you, and then there's a very nice user-friendly URL right here. And also, if you think your students need some basic information, this library orientation is a good one for them. And very last, and probably the most important link I think for you all, is on our library's main page, and it's that very last link underneath About Library. So it's Faculty Library Services, and if you click on Faculty Library Services and go to Instruction Support, just look for the Blackboard icon on this page. And so this will indicate where you can embed information from, and it's got the entire PowerPoint of today's already uploaded. And so what I did for that is there are a lot of call outs and things like that, so you can easily get back to what we were doing. The other thing on this page is it does have that handout that I was talking about earlier. So this is the Welcome to the 21st Century, a guide to embedding online library resources into your course. So it has the username, password, and then overview information about searching each area. It's got the links to each area that you need to go to, and it also has what search options you need to choose in those areas.
Great job, Amy.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.